My favorite part of group coaching. Let's talk about wins. This is one of my clients. I brag about him all the time because Dale's awesome. Dale's been with us for about 3 years now. When he first started with us, it was just him. He's been owning his own company for over 15 years, just by himself. Chucking a truck is what we call it. He was the sole owner, sole employee. He did it all. And so started 3 years ago. Last year, he had the biggest year he ever had. He was able to buy a warehouse. He had 2 trucks going in the field full time. He did about $57,000 in the month of June. Now flash forward to this June. He has 4 trucks in the field and did $103,000 in a month, which is the biggest month he's ever had. He's on track to hit our goal of $750,000. And he may, if he stays on the same path, if he keeps doing what he's been currently doing the past couple months, he may even hit his $1 million mark. And so he's just a rock star to go from just him, just sole owner, sole employee, running it out of his house, to 4 trucks in the field, owning a warehouse, and approaching $1 million a year. I mean, in 3 years, he's just killing it. And so wanted to take a moment and brag about him being such a diligent doer. But anybody else here, we celebrate wins large and small. So if anybody's feeling brave or they want to unmute and share the good news. Anybody? Tom looks like he's on a beach right now. I think he says Tom's ready for, he's like, it's about to be 5 o'clock. I'm going to go to the beach here. Any wins?
Well, I've got a group coaching call win. One of the guys that comes here frequently that I don't see here yet today, he might pop on late. Phil with Minnesota Gutter, he heard our talk about pricing about 3 weeks ago or so and decided to test it out and raise his prices by 10%. And you know what? Just like we said, there have been no issues so far with how he's been charging people. So just 10% more revenues to pad to the bottom line numbers, which is awesome.
Love that. That's
Nice.
Huge.
A
Anybody
necessary
else
change.
here on this call? Did anybody else, if you're willing to show, raise the hands, did anybody else raise their prices here recently because of inflation, and stuff? And after that group call, I see some hands going up.
Yep.
It's just part of it. Even if you have made adjustments because of, here I'm echoing. Do you guys hear me echoing? Did it stop?
Yeah, you're good.
I think you guys could hear me through, I share an office with Jonathan Rude. I think you guys could hear me through his computer.
Oops.
He was just getting double me. See, there we go. So, a lot of times I hear clients are like, oh yeah, well, I'm raising my prices because material cost is up. And it's like, well, if you're just raising it for materials, you're not staying up with inflation. It's more expensive for you to run your business. And so on top of that, you've got to add that 8 to 10%. So let Harley's testimonial, be the extra little push. If you're waiting to increase your prices, let that be the thing that gives you the confidence. Make that increase.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think, Justin, you might have a win that you shared with me earlier this week, right? About hiring maybe some of the recent people.
Oh yeah. Yeah. We was able to bring on our first full-time guy after watching the video that you shared with me on the hiring process. Kind of implemented a couple of things that took away from that, and was able to do a couple interviews and bring on a full-time journeyman. And
whoa!
Here in like the next week or so, well, the next thing I need to do now is I need to change my job posting to, instead of trying to hire a journeyman, I need to hire him a helper.
Yeah.
And then that way, that'll kind of take some of the burden off me to where I can actually do other things besides being stuck out in the field all day.
Yeah. And
Yeah,
Justin,
man.
For those of us who can't read your hat, could you tell everybody what you do?
It's heating and air conditioning.
Okay. And what month are we in? We're in the month of July, right? So
yes.
You're in your busy season, I would have to guess.
Mm-hmm.
Yet you were able to hire.
Yeah.
Technician. a qualified technician.
Jerk,
It's
yeah.
possible.
Yeah.
It's possible. I know that there's a lot of you here that are trying to hire right now, and you're like, there's no good workers out there. And I get it. They are far and few between. We are not gonna, blow smoke about that. We know they're far and few between, but they are out there. You just gotta be consistent with your hiring system. You gotta always be looking for those unicorns. And so, Justin, we're so excited for you to see you grow in the company and getting to a position where it's not so built around you. And so congratulations, sir. A lot more to come.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. Okay, guys. Well, let's get on into it. I appreciate everybody who has their cameras on. Those who do not have their cameras on, that's fine. But when we get towards breakout rooms, we're going to start picking on you if you don't have your cameras on. So just that, there's your one and final warning. Okay. Okay, so what we are talking about here today is every contractor's worst nightmare. You probably have had nightmares, but I see heads shaking all across the board. I've never seen a more lively group coaching call than when I said the words, third-party lead generators. So I'm getting a sense of my crowd here. Okay, so that's what we're going to be talking about today is everybody's worst nightmare, those third-party lead generators. So let's talk about it. So third-party lead generators and why we hate them. Before I jump into my slide, we got this lovely picture here. I'm sure some of you have felt that way before, like you're being arrested by HomeAdvisor, taken advantage of, brought down to your knees. Will anybody want to kind of share their thoughts on HomeAdvisor, just an experience or two? Aim.
Well, I have an experience. This is Sergio here, Bright Soul Energy. So right now at the moment, I just was dealing with the third-party lead generator. Not a big company, but I was basically taken for about $3,500. So I have my attorney seeking some justice for me on that behalf. So we'll see what's going on with that litigation process, but definitely not something that I would want anybody to go through. It sucks.
Right. It is
an
awful.
expensive dagger.
It is. And unfortunately, as you've seen, Sergio, you said it was a small company. There is not a lack for third-party lead generations. And there's not a lack for marketing companies. There's a lot out there. It's easy to be distracted by the shiny objects. We're going to be talking about a lot of that today. We're going to be talking about, why we don't like third-party listing sites, also how to get the most out of the ones that we're using. And then we're also going to talk about the ones that we recommend. With us at Redmond Growth, being in this for so long, working with so many different industries, we've gotten a really good feel for which ones are worth your time. So we're going to be talking about all of that. Sergio, we're sorry to hear it, man, that was your experience, but we're glad you're here on this call. Okay, so why do we hate them? Low quality leads. The leads are crap. The leads, they're tire kickers. They're people who have unrealistic expectations. Leads are crap. We don't like them. Low quality. Another reason why. High ad spend. I know, has anybody here ever, had a negative experience with like Google AdWords where you're spending a crap ton of money and not getting anything from it, having that high ad spend and it's just not doing anything for you. Hard to reach leads. I called them within 2 minutes, Nicole, I promise. And they already had somebody else hired or they never answered. I know some of us have definitely been there. And then here's one thing, one stumbling block that we see a lot is it's another system to manage. You've got so many things going on. Justin was just talking about how he just hired his first full tech. He's wearing all of the hats. He's the business owner. He's the lead employee. He's the lead technician. And so trying to manage a third-party listing site can be hard, to try to respond to people quickly, keep things up to date. It can be a bit challenging. These are the main reason why we don't like third-party lead generators. Here's a lovely review of a rather upset customer about HomeAdvisor. I find it pretty amusing. I'm sure a lot of you have felt this way. So the big question is, are they worth it? Are they worth this hassle? Is it going to pay off? So let's talk about it. When do we need to use third-party lead generation? having a hard time filling the schedule without them? Are we doing all we can in other marketing? Are we doing everything we can to get Google reviews? Are we consistently uploading photos to our Google business listing? Are we doing our Dream 100 work? You know, are we, do we have our SEO going? Are we doing everything that we can to generate enough leads with what we currently have going on? And I still can't fill the schedule. Then that's a sign we need to tap into third-party lead generation. Is it time to add a new truck or team member, but you're a little bit worried about keeping them busy? You know, that's always a tough decision to make. It's like, oh, if I hired somebody, then I need more leads, but right now I can't take on more leads unless I hire somebody. You always like to have that little cushion. One rule of thumb is we always say you want to have more leads than you know what to do with. That's when you want to hire. And so if you don't, third-party lead generation is a great tool to help that. If you're wanting to advertise for a particular type of job, if you're like, I'm getting a lot of repairs, but I want to do more installs, want to do more repipes, anything like that, it's a great opportunity to tap into a third-party listing. If you answered yes to any of these questions, and I'm going to ask everybody here, can anybody answer yes to any of these questions? Either their schedule is a little bit spotty, you know, they could use a few more leads, wanting to get more of a particular job. Does anybody see a couple hands here? So if you answered yes to that question, then this is a necessary evil. That's the third-party listing site. It's a necessary evil. So how do we get the most out of a third-party listing site? The first thing that we have to do is we have to completely fill out the profile in detail. Funny story on this. So I was just recently on family vacation, like I told some of you. One of my cousins, he's 21. He lives in a town of like 300 people, and he's a farmer. So the amount of eligible women that he runs into in his day-to-day, as you guys can probably guess, is pretty limited. So I was telling him about, you know, online dating, getting himself an online dating app. So he sends me a picture of his profile. This boy had no pictures. The one that he did have was of his combine. Okay. He had 2 words in his bio. And I was like, Dane, nobody's going to swipe on you. Nobody is going to choose to message you if that is your profile. You're not putting anything out there. I need some photos, man. I need a piffy bio. Come on, we got to work it. We got to work the system. Same thing with third-party listing sites. If you half-ass your profile, nobody is going to click on you. It's the same principle. So we got to make sure it's fully filled out. We got to have photos. We got to have hours. Got to have a bio, FAQs. We need to give them a reason to want to pick on you. You know, reviews, those types of things. So always get a review when booking on the platform. So on Thumbtack, HomeAdvisor, Google Local Services, a lot of them will import your Google reviews to your profile, which is great. But they also have a way for you to get reviews specifically on that profile. Now, we always want you to put all of your focus onto getting Google reviews. Why? You guys should know this by now. It's the most fruitful. 90% of searches are there. It's where we want you to put your focus. But we do encourage, if you are booking somebody through HomeAdvisor, ask for a review on HomeAdvisor from that customer. Same thing with Thumbtack, same thing with Angie's List, same thing with Google Local Services. Those platforms like to see you getting reviews on the platform. And so make sure that you're doing that. You also need to make sure that you're filing your leads. We're going to go over what that looks like here when we break out into rooms, but this is specifically important with Google Local Services. Now we need to immediately respond to leads by phone and text. If we call a lead back once, if I'm your coach and you tell me that you called a lead and I find out that you only called them once, I'm not going to be a happy camper. Studies show that it takes reaching out to leads 7 times before having a meaningful conversation. Most people do not answer unknown numbers. Shoot them a text, leave a voicemail, call them at the beginning of the day, call them at the do this for 3 days in a row before vetting out that lead. We got to make sure that we're not only responding quickly, but that we are diligent in our pursuit of leads. You've worked damn hard to get them. We don't need to be casual about it.
But hold on, Nicole. I don't want to annoy the customer with 7 calls and text messages. Wouldn't that feel like I'm blowing them up? I might lose them.
You've already lost them if you don't pursue them. The worst that somebody can say is, I hired somebody else. That's the worst that can happen, is they answer and they say, hey, stop calling me. I hired somebody else. Okay, great. That's all we needed to know. But the last thing that you heard is, this is somebody who needs your service. They are reaching out to you and they need the service that you provide. So you are not doing your job if you do not do everything in your power to get a hold of them. And so just be tenacious about getting a hold of leads. Now, you don't need to go extreme. There was a time at Redmond Growth, early in my career here, I've been here for almost 4 years, where we would literally call a lead twice a day, every single day for 2 weeks. And then we would call them 5 times in a row, back to back, before we would get rid of that lead. Thankfully, we're not in that stage anymore, but that shows you the level of, and I will say with us doing that, and we did that for years, the amount of times that we actually had somebody get upset, probably a handful in between the 3 of us who were there.
Yes, slim to none.
Slim to none.
Certainly not enough.
Did we ever get a bad review from it? No.
Nope.
We didn't. And so those fears are not necessarily justified, and you're not going to be pursuing them near as annoyingly as we were. That I'm sure of. Now, you got to follow up. I've already mentioned it. This was a study done by Marketing Donut. 80% of sales take 5 follow-up calls in order to close. This is specifically, I'm talking to you remodelers who are in here. Richard Carfanga, I see you. Josh, I see you here. A few of you others, I'm sure, are remodelers, roofers, restoration. You guys have a longer sales process. It is so important to follow up with your leads at any stage of the process. If you've given a quote and you haven't heard and they didn't say yes or no, you've got to set that follow-up appointment to get that yes or no. Even for you HVAC guys, if it's a big install, they aren't ready to commit, you got to set that follow-up appointment. You got to follow up with your leads. That's the only way you're going to get the most out of these third-party listing sites. Or if you're paying for leads in any way, then we need to be picky. Just like we talked about earlier with, unfortunately, Sergio gave us a lovely example of this at his expense, unfortunately. But we got to be picky. Not all third-party lead generators are created equal. And so thankfully, if you're on this call, you're signed up with Redmond Growth, and we can kind of guide you in that process of which ones are going to be the most fruitful for you. One thing that we always preach is, if you really want to do something, if you want to try a newspaper ad, if you want to try something like that, you got to track your results. You got to track what you're getting from it. Thankfully, with your working with us, we can kind of guide you along that. What we're going to be talking about today is we're going to be going over Google Local Services, how it works, how to optimize it. We're going to break out in groups. We're going to talk about it. Whether you've used Google Local Services for a long time or if you're new to it, this is going to be a great refresher or a great baseline for you to work off of. And so what we're going to do here is we're going to break out in groups